Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Fringe North podcast. I'm Caitlin Townsend. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm the project coordinator at Fringe North for this season. And I have with me here today Melanie, and Melanie is from Sisterscene. Melanie, would you like to take a moment to just introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your company?
Absolutely. So my name is Melanie Gall. My pronouns are also she and her. And I have two companies that I use when I tour. It started this whole thing, this my whole Fringe journey started off with my sister and I were going to be doing shows together. So ergo Sister Scene. So she's actually works for the federal government, but she wanted to do more creative things. And I'm a professional performer. This is what I've trained for and I've done all my life. So we were gonna do that. But then she got posted to Columbia, and so that didn't happen like a long time ago. She got her posting was in Bogota. So she went off to Bogota. I did it alone. And so I mean, but you end up building a name, you build an audience with the name of your company. So I've kept the company name. She's back in Canada now, so we're back to doing things together. Um yeah, but she bought a lot of yarn in Bogota. So in the end it was like win-win. So we have a company name and a lot of yarn.
Awesome. Yeah, so for those who don't know, Melanie was part of our festival this past summer, and you had a really great show, A Toast to Prohibition, which was wonderful. But I'm curious, like, what have you been doing since the summer? And it's been a few months now. Do you have any other new projects on the go?
Well, when you do Fringe tours, and when I mean that's only one part of what I do as a performer, but it is, I mean it's sort of become quite a large part because I enjoy doing it so much. You always need a new show on the go. Some people just some people redo the same show year after year, and a lot of audiences do like coming back and seeing the repetition, or they'll do a similar show. Like if you're a stand-up comedian, you'll do like version 2 of this thing or version
Mhm.
3. But for my shows, since they're each based on usually a different historic group of music, and to make things interesting for me because as a singer, as much as I love the songs I put in the show, you don't love them as much after doing it 200 times over three
For
months.
sure.
By the end, you're just like, you're thinking of what toppings you want on your pizza that night while you're singing a love ballad. I mean, so you do need to keep things kind of interesting, and I do try to keep the music interesting by investing money and getting really good backing tracks, working with musicians I really like. So doing all that. But nevertheless, got to keep it interesting for yourself too, because the audiences know. I mean,
Yeah, for
you know,
sure.
um, so although my big tour of the Prohibition show is going to be coming up in 2022, I've already been working on my show for 2022, but mostly 2023, which is about the life of Noel Coward.
Nice.
I didn't know anything about him. Luckily for me, I am like the only person who knew nothing about him, I think. So I actually think like there's a pretty good built-in audience for this. I've been singing his music. I just didn't know anything about him. So behind me is probably like 7 books by him and about him. So I've been delving into the life of Noel Coward because when you write a show, not only do you need to know the things you put in the show, but people come up and talk to you after, or you get an interviewer who is a giant, say, Edith Piaf fan, and they
Mhm.
bring up things, and you don't want to end up with this blank look like, oh yeah, that's probably true. You have to know
Mhm.
one at least as much as the super fan who comes to the show. So,
Mhm.
and people are definitely, since Noel Coward did, in case you don't know, he wrote music, he wrote plays. I mean, he was a polymath, he did all sorts of different things. I'm not going to know as much about his plays, but I need to know as much as I can about his life and his music. So I've been reading up, I've been becoming a Noel Coward expert as much as one can from their childhood bedroom in Northern Alberta. um, so I've been doing
Awesome.
that. I've been getting ready for the tour for the Prohibition show next summer. So I have 5 or 6 cities lined up. I have a tour of a knitting show I do. I'm lined up for England in the spring. So I've been getting that already, rememorizing that show. I wrote a book over the summer, which I mean, I have a book coming out, but I wrote a second book, and it's about house sparrows, the fraught history of house sparrows in North America and the people who have adopted them in their stories. And I've
Nice.
been researching and interviewing and writing the book. So I mean that won't come out for a couple years, but it's done. So I mean that was my biggest project over the summer was talking to all these people who have house sparrows as pets. And yes, I know it's weird, and yes, I too have one. So I guess that's what I've been. I certainly haven't been getting a haircut. Um,
Yeah.
I wore pants a couple times. It's been a pandemic of leggings, so I did make an effort like
For sure.
twice. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's kind of what I've been doing.
That's awesome.
I meant to like, I don't know, learn a new language or something. It just didn't. I learned to make scones. Like that's it.
Nice.
So yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. It sounds like you have a lot on the go for a COVID environment when there's not much going on.
I mean, you
So,
gotta, I mean, I like I said, I'm here with my mom in Northern Canada. I'm usually living in New York. So
mhm,
yeah, I'm just the key is to just do so much,
mhm.
just do a lot. So you don't think that like I tried to escape my childhood town and here I am. Um, so yeah.
That's fair. So for those who are not familiar with creating like a play, and because you did talk about your upcoming one that you're building for the next season, and how long does that take to do all that research typically, and like what kind of investment is it to actually get through all of that material?
So, okay, this is a bit can be a bit of a fraught topic because it's different for different people. So
Mhm,
my answer is not going to be the universal answer. There are people I know who write the show description, write the show title, go to the festival like a week in advance and then start writing their show.
mhm,
So and there are some people who never script their show, who just get up with some talking points and do a show. That is not what I do. I'm not saying I've not never been unprepared because I mean,
yeah,
there was
we all
this
have
one year
those moments.
well, yeah, there was this year I was doing a show about Vera Lynn, and I ended up getting this massive tour of the Czech Republic. And I was like, write a show about Vera Lynn, go to the Czech Republic. So from the Czech Republic, I basically called my pianist in New York. He's a recording engineer and a pianist, and I was like, can you just look up a bunch of Vera Lynn songs and like record them for me, and then I'll learn them later. And then I mean, I did. That was not. It was a while ago. I'm more prepared now, but yeah, that was a kind of seat of your pants kind of show. But what I usually do, and I wrote a blog about this, and it's on my webpage just because when I was getting one of my shows ready, I thought, you know what, it is interesting. Like you just sort of do all the things to get it ready, but you don't really think about it. So I took a step
Mhm,
back and actually, you know, posted each time I did a thing, just to sort of, you know, even remind me the next time around, like these are actually all the steps. So
mhm,
usually it starts I don't know, 9 or 10 months in advance, you think of an idea. And for me, I mean, as much as there are lots of ideas that I do that are close to my heart, I like money. So, I mean, I mean, I like money. I'm trying to make, I mean, I make a living as a performance artist. This is my life. You know, I have several university degrees in this. This is what I do. So I need it to pay. It can't just be, you know, I'm telling a story that is close to me. It has to be that, but one that people will want to see. So, you know,
yeah.
you sort of look at the market, you try to think who's your target audience? Is this the target audience will come to festivals? All that. So usually I have a couple ideas and then one idea, it becomes the idea. And since most of my shows, at least in Canada, are 55 minutes long because you need time at the end. You have 60 minutes usually, and you need time to do a speech to tell people to buy your merch.
Mhm,
So it's 55 minutes a show and 5 minutes of a merch speech at the end. And of that 55 minutes, 38 is music usually. I mean, I've got this kind of down now. So then
mhm,
I've picked the music, research the music, not only again, not the music I like necessarily, but some of what I like and some of what people expect to hear. Like for Noel Coward, there was about 6 songs that I don't love. They're fine, that had to be in there. So I made medleys. And so like
nice.
it's hitting on all these songs, and then I put in the songs that I love that
Mhm,
aren't necessarily his most famous songs. So you got to get the music in there. Then I record the music, and then I have to worry about costuming. And I know artists who pay a lot of money to get their costumes professionally made, and I have done that. But eBay is great. You know, often you can find a student who's in costume design and pay them, and you know, you get costumes. However you do it, there are lots of websites that do have historic like costumes, and they're good quality. So you get the costumes, you get several of each one because they get dirty, and you can't
yeah.
always wash them when you're on tour.
Mhm,
Um, you get your poster designed, you get your show image designed. That usually involves a photo shoot, and then that photo shoot needs to be photoshopped, and then the photo shoot needs to be put on a poster. So there's all that, and then you need to get the rights to the music if it's a music show. I mean, it's just there are so many steps. Um, and you know, all of that is, and then you need to try the show out because, like,
mhm,
to be honest, most of us take these shows on the road cold. You know, we show up at the first festival, which sometimes is a pretty major festival, and we're doing a show with a reviewer in the audience our first time through the show. And I've been lucky. I think I've only sort of crashed and burned once on that, on in a first show, but it happens. You need to,
Mhm.
there's no excuses. You have to be ready to go. So, basically get ready to go. Which usually involves walking around the streets chanting your script to yourself. Like, and people look at you, but you don't care because it's Alberta. Um, yeah, at least you're not chanting about hockey, I guess.
For
So I
sure.
mean, you just get ready, and then you go on tour, and a lot of people hire a director. Like, it is important to have your show dramaturged and directed. When it's a piece of theater, some of them are more theatrical, but I've done this for so long that I do work with other people in their shows. So I mean, I usually kind of skip that step. Probably I shouldn't, but anyway. So we do all these things, and then you take it on the road, and for the first few shows, afterwards you revisit what you did. Sometimes you just tape the first few and watch them through. You change it, and by three or four, hopefully you've got the show that you will be touring like 200 times that year. So
Awesome.
that
It's
is
quite the
my short
process.
answer.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious with that. You had mentioned selling merch too. Like, what percentage do you tend to make off your merch as compared to ticket sales? Like, how does that balance work for you?
um, what's interesting is ticket sales don't always equal the amount of merch. Like, I've sold out a 350-seat theater and sold 2 CDs. And so in that case, definitely, that you make a lot more on ticket sales. But I've had shows, quieter shows where you maybe have 60 or 70 people in the audience and you end up selling like 30 CDs. So often it's how you do your speech.
Mhm.
It's not scripted. I just sort of say things. Some things work better than others. I mean, it's kind of fun to just like see what'll come out. But definitely, some merch speeches worked better than others. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I usually have buttons. I got these really cute, like little sparrow with a little sparrow holding a drink glass that looks drunk, basically, to sell for the Prohibition show when I tour. So I'm,
Nice.
get just kind of not just doing CDs, because I'm not saying CDs are
Mhm.
obsolete. Like, they're kind of obsolete. Sometimes you feel that people are just buying them because they feel sorry for you because they don't have a CD player.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
but also, like, usually I have the digital tracks. People don't tend to buy those, but I always have them. So yeah, but it's important to have merch. It gets your name out there.
Mhm.
It's a way for people to show. I wish I had shirts. I had shirts one year, but then I kind of figured like no one's an extra small, so I had like two, and then everyone was an extra small, and so I was like, how about this XXXL? So I mean, shirts, you need lots of sizes. There's that, but yeah, merch. It kind of keeps, and then you usually need someone to sell it because
Mhm.
you're busy throwing your set in the back, like you only have a couple minutes, and people talk to you, and you really just need someone to be taking money and giving CDs. So, um, yeah, merch.
Yeah, that sounds fun. Yeah, and I think like with the CD thing too, mostly what I see people buying them for is vehicles still to put in their car. But that's really where most people use them, if not, most people have like iPods now in their car too set up. But yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
But if someone wants to throw me money and take one of my millions of CDs that I have stuck in my mom's garage, I am not going to say no.
Mm.
Like, please buy a CD.
Do you sell online at all, or do you just do?
No, I do. I do through my webpage. And it's on my songs are on iTunes. I mean, they're on Spotify. They're all over, and people do buy them. It's just after shows, people like to hold. They like to have walk out with something in their hand,
Yeah, for sure.
and that's another reason I always have programs at my shows. It's an extra expense. A lot of people don't, but I found people really enjoy them. So they like having something in their hand in the theater, and they like sometimes to have something in their hand when they leave. So merch can work
Hmm.
sometimes.
For sure. Yeah, you also mentioned that you have a book that you've been writing, but you also have one that's coming out. Did you want to chat a little bit about your book that will be coming out soon and how that project came about?
Sure. So, this show, like you said, I did A Toast to Prohibition was the show I did at Fringe North. The year before that, I toured a show about Deanna Durbin and Judy Garland. Now, everyone knows Judy Garland. Not a lot of people know Deanna Durbin. She comes from Winnipeg. Um, she was born in 1921/1922, depending on who you believe. It was 1921, by the way, that official date. But the she became the biggest Hollywood star in the 1930s. Very few people remember her. She was this a major component in Judy Garland's issues. She was always put up against her as the more successful, prettier, thinner, all of these, like her rivals. There was this huge rivalry by the Hollywood studios. I mean, between these two essentially best friends that affected them their whole lives. And no one remembers Deanna Durbin. I mean, hopefully some people do, are like, no one will buy the book. But very few people remember Deanna Durbin. So I did a show of her. Obviously, I had seen a couple of her movies from the 30s, and I always planned to do a show about her sometime, and it seemed like it was a good year. It was a good year, and so I toured. I think I toured like 14 festivals with the show, and then I got offered an off-Broadway run in New York. So I did that like
Nice.
right before the pandemic. Actually, no, Australia. Doing it in Australia was right before the pandemic, so it was right before Australia. And I sort of mentioned, like I said, during the merch speech, you just say whatever sometimes. So I kind of was like, yeah, I should make this into a book. And a publisher actually came up after and was like, yeah, you should make this into a book. So I thought, maybe I should. So things got busy, went to Australia, pandemic hit. Everyone started watching Netflix. And I was like, I should make this thing into a book. I have all this research. I had so
Yeah.
much research from the show. And when I did the off Broadway run, I actually, when someone said book, I was like, fine, I will collect anything else I need from these archives in New York. So I went there and I photographed like hundreds and hundreds of articles and interviews from the 1930s in this dusty old, like forgotten archive I had found. So I had all this information on my phone, and I wrote a book. And I did, when you write a book, traditional publishing, you get an agent. So I got an agent, and the agent pitched it to a bunch of publishers, and I got a book deal, and it's coming out this July. Like, who knew? It actually worked out. So I've always wanted to be a published author. So that's happening. It's
That's
called
awesome.
Deanna Durbin, Judy Garland, and the Golden Age of Hollywood, and it's pre-order on Amazon. If you look it up, it's actually there. My name is there as an author. So
Nice.
um, I'm really pleased. I'm really proud of that. I mean, it was one of those things that like I will always have. I mean, you hope your shows will be your legacy, but you never know. But a book is around forever. I hope. I hope if
Mhm.
people buy it, please buy it. So like that's but this amazing bit of Canadian history, of Hollywood history that just nobody has bothered to sort of uncover. Even in the movie Judy, like they almost touched upon it, but they didn't. So yeah,
That's
that's my
interesting.
book. It's my book. I can't wait
Now,
to hold it. I'm like, I have all these other books. Like I can't wait to hold my book. So
so how did you find out about Deanna? If a lot of people don't even remember her, like what was it that brought you to that for creating your initial show that this book then built off of?
this is going to sound terrible, but I tend to do really well at the Winnipeg Fringe, like really well. I mean, I've been going there for 11 years now. I have a good following. She's from Winnipeg, so I mean, I looked up famous people from Winnipeg in music like years ago
Nice.
because I was like, you know what? I'm gonna hit hard with the local the local content, and the year I get the 350 seat theater at the Fringe is gonna be the year that I do a Winnipeg esque show. And I got the 350 seat theater, and I was like, okay, it's like we're doing this. It's either going to be Burton Cummings or it's going to be Deanna Durbin, and I'm not a like mid 70s rock star, so I'm like, it's going to be Deanna Durbin. And yeah, it's just, and I had seen her movies. I had seen two of her first movie and her second movie I had seen. So I mean, I knew of her, but I didn't know she was from Winnipeg. Like I didn't know any of the details. So yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say it's because I like money, but I mean, realistically, I wanted to sell out that theater easily.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and it was that or Eddie Cantor, and I would love. He's a vaudevillian. I would love to do a show about him. It's just I don't know that enough people remember him. So that's kind of the next show. Might be I might just take that chance, but yeah. So Deanna Durbin
Nice.
won the day that year.
That's awesome.
Yay!
What are some of her movies? Just you had mentioned seeing them, and I'm not familiar with them.
Nobody is. um, so basically, the first one is called Three Smart Girls. It came out, I believe, in 1936. I've been doing all these things with dates with Noel Coward now, so I've forgotten all the dates from this book, but I believe it came out in 1936. And it's basically The Parent Trap. The Parent Trap was based off of this. So it is the first movie with a teenager as the star ever. I mean, at that point, there had never been a teenage star. There had never been a teenage star in a Hollywood movie. There had been Shirley Temple as a child, but that's it. I think she was 7 at that point, maybe. So, 100 Men and a Girl was almost an even bigger hit. That was her second movie, and then there was Mad About Music. Like, there's a certain age. all of these ones, it's just no one really remembers. Partly because she didn't want people to remember. She wanted to be forgotten and go off and not be a star.
Oh,
But
okay.
they're great movies, honestly, especially if you look at 100 Men and a Girl. And my favorite is Three Smart Girls Grow Up. That's the second
Nice.
Three Smart Girls movie.
Mhm.
They're great movies. I mean, they still hold up, and every little while they come on TV. So every little while, so it's worth watching out for.
Yeah, I'll definitely be looking out for it. Yeah, it sounds cool. What was the most unique thing or like the the most surprising thing that you found that you really enjoyed learning about her as you went through all that research?
Well, she was the highest paid woman in America in, I believe,
Oh,
19, I think it was 1946. Again, I don't remember, I have to re-memorize all these dates when I tour the show again. But the highest paid woman in America, and that's saying a lot. I mean,
yeah,
there were a
for
lot
sure.
of women. There were the Vanderbilts. There were a lot of famous society women. She was making more than all of them.
Wow.
Also, in the Anne Frank house, overseas. I mean, when people go tour through where Anne Frank hid for all those years, there are pictures of Deanna Durbin on the wall. Like there's almost nothing original left. But she was such a big fan of Deanna Durbin that she brought them in, put them up, and they were almost the only things left after the place was trashed by the Nazis. Um, so like her reach was that big,
Mhm.
that she inspired even Anne Frank in her attic. And Mussolini, like back before America joined World War II, because a lot of this was around World War II times.
Mhm.
Mussolini actually wrote a letter to her telling her to tell the American president not to go into the war, to just like let them do their thing and just don't enter the war. And he figured that Deanna Durbin had such a big fault, like that her influence was so big that she could tell Roosevelt not to join World War II, which obviously did not happen. But I mean, so just the amount of influence that she had in the world is just amazing, and
Yeah,
how much she's been forgotten.
yeah, it's so surprising that you can go from like that to, but if it's what she wanted, then she was very effective in getting out of that scene for sure.
Oh, exactly. No, exactly. And I mean, she did correspond with her fans. She died 7 years ago, and up until her death, she did write to fans years and years and years. But she wanted to be forgotten by the world at large. Like she still has a fan
Mhm.
club. She's had a fan club since the 1930s. It's still going. I mean,
Yes,
it's
it's
it's the
amazing.
longest running fan club, and it's never stopped.
Mhm.
So yeah, um,
That's so unique.
it's a crazy story.
Yeah, for sure. So on the technical side of things, like I know you've written a lot of plays before, but I imagine like the format of writing a book probably feels a lot different. So I'm wondering like, how did you navigate that shift to writing a book compared to like screenwriting or playwriting?
Well, the organizing the information in a way is the same, because like at least in my shows, it's like information in the form of acting, music, more information in the form of acting, like more music. So I mean, in a way, that is like organizing book chapters.
Mhm.
But mostly and especially for a biography, because I mean that's essentially what this is. So I mean, it goes along in time, starts when she's a baby, ends when she dies. So I mean it is easy to keep things chronological. I think if it were
Yeah,
a fiction book maybe, or one that jumped around in time, like that might be a little harder. And luckily most of these articles I found were pretty clearly dated. Like you could figure like this, even if it didn't have the date on it, you could figure out what she was doing or what movie she was in at the time.
yeah.
But basically for me, organize it was 116,000 words when I started and 79,000 when I ended. So I mean it was just like writing ton and then cutting, and it hurt to cut. I've got to say, like, because a
Mhm.
lot of the stuff that got cut was stuff about Canada.
Mhm.
Um because it's American publisher, American agent, and I thought all the naming all these important streets in Winnipeg in her life was valid, say, and they're like, no one's gonna care. So
Mhm.
I have the information. I think it's really interesting, but like it's hard to decide what to take out, because you're essentially curating the record of someone's life that you've never met, so
Mhm.
I guess it's a lot of responsibility deciding how someone is going to be remembered, because I mean
Yeah.
that's what this book is. There is no biography about her out there. There's a self-published book about her, and then this one about her movies years ago, but there is no biography about her. So this is it. Like
Yeah.
this defines how this amazing person that I've never met will be remembered in history. And it's a lot of, I felt bad cutting some things,
Hmm.
but you just try to do whatever serves the story, also get it published. So I would
Yeah.
like, I'm like, I'll cut whatever you want me to cut.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. What was that process like to work with publishers for the first time and to find an agent to get a publisher and all those different steps of
um,
working towards it?
like kind of stressful. So I mean, okay, basically it started last September, like not this September, but the September before. So basically what you do is you write a query for a nonfiction book, because I do a lot of, I freelance literary edit. I've been doing this through the pandemic. So you write a book, it's done, or it doesn't have to be done for a nonfiction book, but you write part of a book. You write a query letter, 3 paragraphs, send it out, research agents, send it to a bunch of agents. If they're interested, they will ask for a proposal, which is this whole thing where you talk about yourself, an overview of the book, a chapter outlines, a few sample chapters, other comparative books, why they should publish it, your marketing plan. Like
Mm.
it's usually about 50 to 70 pages. It can be like, it's this huge, I just finished it for the Sparrow book like this week. So, um, and even if you have an agent, you need to have this because this is what the publishers want. So then I sent this to a bunch of agents, and basically if they're interested, they'll ask for more, and if they want you, they'll ask to do a phone call. So I had 4 agents ask, get to the phone call stage. So I had these phone calls, and I'm like, I want them all, man. And so it was a toss up between two. Picked one. Um, it was really hard. Like
Yeah,
there,
for
I mean,
sure.
there's the yeah, that was a really hard decision. But anyway, so you pick an agent, you sign it, you hope you've made the right decision. You sign on with that agent, um, and then they go out with their contacts and they sell the book. And so basically, once I got the book contract, that it took about 6 months for her to sell the book.
Oh,
And I got the book contract, so now I'm working with the editor at the publishing place. Last month was getting him photographs, because as the author, you actually need to license the photographs.
yeah.
Luckily, the publishing company had a blanket license for a bunch of them, and I got to know this amazing super fan of Deanna Durbin. He is the biggest collector of Durbiana in the world. It's a
It's
word.
awesome.
Um, and so he was so generous. He sent me hundreds of photographs that basically they're out of copyright. He owns them now, and he gave me permission to use them. So thanks to him, I've got these amazing rare photographs of Judy Garland and Deanna Durbin for the book. What I'm doing now is I need to get famous people to say they like it.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I don't know any famous people. So I am basically cold writing famous people, being like, hey, I've got this book. Do you want to endorse me? And it's like no one's answering.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, so it's not just write a book. It's write a book, and like there's so much involved. So
Yeah,
yeah,
for
that's
sure.
what I'm doing now. I'm waiting to hear back from the editor about any editorial changes that need to be made. A lot of the spellings I used were older spellings for things. So you make a list of words you don't want them to correct because you put them there for a reason. So I mean, I
Yeah.
hope they read the list. But once that comes back, I correct that, and then soon I need to make an index. So then they'll send me the proofs, and I either pay someone, but I'm just gonna do it. Make an index for the book. So all of these things that are not just writing a book. But it's just
Hmm.
like doing a Fringe show. It's
Yeah.
not just doing a show. People think it is. People think like you just showed up with your talent and whatever. And just like acting is so much a small part of this whole thing that
Yeah.
we do. But no, it's another world. And it's kind of I mean, as a performing artist, and I'm sure in the arts you deal with the same thing, our lives are full of gatekeepers. Like this is what
Mm.
it is. Like when I was an opera singer professionally in New York for a while, and everyone's a gatekeeper, and it's just, you audition to get past them, and you socialize a lot to get past them. And having an agent, like once you get past that gatekeeper, it's very interesting to be on the other side in a way.
Mm.
Like there are always going to be more gatekeepers now. It's the media, or how do I get famous people to endorse my book? If you're a famous person listening, contact me. Oh my god, I need you to endorse my book. It's a good book. But yeah, being somewhat on the other side of the whole gatekeeper situation, after basically it feels like we've been just like, and I'm sure every performing artist agrees, it feels like we've been pounding on that door for
Hmm.
our whole professional lives and probably before. It feels amazing to be partially on the other side. So I guess that is what it feels like. Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's so interesting because like there's so much goes into the arts that's behind the scenes and that people don't know that it takes to get into the art. So I'm curious too about your process in terms of tracking down these photographs and how you got them. Did you write the book first and then look for pieces to fill in, or was it kind of simultaneously?
I wrote the book first, but I actually knew about this guy because he had given me the image for my show poster. I
Oh,
didn't know he
nice.
had so many other images, but I had seen this image I really wanted on my show poster as a tiny image online in really low resolution. I forget, it was like from Slovakia or something. Someone had used it, and I was like, oh, if only I had a good version of that. And again, I hit up the fan club. You know, you hit up the mess. There is still Deanna Durbin message boards and a Facebook group. It's still like she has these very amazing fans that are still out there. I mean, she didn't make that many movies either, but I mean, there's still this immense loyalty to her. So I hit them up. I got in contact with him, and so I mean, I knew that he was a potential resource. I didn't know he'd be this amazing and generous and just. I owe him so much pie. I just need to get him some pies or like a kidney. I don't know what you give in exchange for this, but like yeah, I mean the book is so much stronger for these photographs because like there's five or six that everyone's seen. They're fine, they're great, but like having these ones, it's just like, yeah, I'm so much of this is connecting with people and people helping other people. And as a fringe artist, like okay, as a former opera singer, you never saw that. Like people did not help you did not help other people unless you wanted something. Like it's just that was it was not a healthy balance of
Mhm.
helping and being helped. But when I tour the fringes and also when I do other festivals now that are not classical music, and I love classical music, but like it is so different. People are helping each other. People are helping each other sell merch. They're helping each other cross promote shows. You know, your tech doesn't show up, which usually they do, but like your tech doesn't show up. An artist will jump in and do your tech. Like
Yeah.
we're there for each other. And through the pandemic, we've been in contact. We're all sort of still there for each other. And that helping out each other without having like without being like, well, what do I get is just amazing. Like that's how people
Mhm.
should live.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
so I mean, I've had so much help with book things, just like getting the photographs, or someone might know a celebrity still helping, or like giving me somewhere to stay when I had to go do a little more research for it. You know, a couple months ago, I popped to New York for a couple weeks, and someone just let me stay with them. So it's just,
Oh, that's so nice.
yeah, it is so nice, like so nice. So I mean, just that the amount of help that I've had with things and support from people who it's been lovely. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Do you have a date for when the book is coming out that we can mention?
It Amazon says July 1st.
Okay. Awesome.
Amazon used to say May 1st. So it recently moved. So
Mm.
it's because of supply chain issues. I think
Mhm.
I talked to the publisher. I'm like, so when do I get to plan a book launch? He basically promised it would be July 1st, like unless something goes catastrophically wrong with the world more.
Yeah.
And like that's happened. So
Yeah.
unless it happens again,
Mm.
it'll probably be July 1st. Yeah, but
Mhm.
you can pre-order it now. They only have the hardcover up, but it's up. I mean,
That's really
it's
cool.
there. So yeah, no, it's so cool. Yes.
Yeah.
So I can't
Congratulations.
believe it's happening. Like, thank you. I can't believe it. I just want to be one of those people with like librarian glasses and my hair up and be like, yes, I wrote a book, and then yes, or no, yes.
Nice. Yeah, well, that's awesome. So for viewers watching, you'll be able to pre-order that on Amazon right now, or July 1st, you will be able to get a copy. So let's talk a little bit about your Fringe experience as a whole. I know we've kind of touched on that already a little bit, but in terms of just having come from like the professional opera singing background and then into the Fringe world, what was it that first sparked that in you to make that shift and to make that change?
Well, I mean, I grew up in Edmonton, so I always knew about the Fringe because the Fringe here, it's the biggest Fringe in North America. It's been running for years. So I went. I was one of those people who would go to the Fringe and not see any shows, just like eat hot dogs and watch the street performers. Like I was the kind of person that I and now I'm just like, oh, come on, go to some shows. But I knew of the Fringe, and I thought it might be interesting to try. So I was still in 2010. I was still singing opera full time. In mostly in New York, sometimes around the world, and I got a Fringe slot, and I was like, okay, I'll do a show about Irving Berlin because I like Irving Berlin. I did not know about the whole copyright thing at that point, being different in Canada. So his songs were out of copyright in the States that I put in my show, and they weren't out of copyright in Canada. And I got my first cease and desist order. But anyway, it's fine. Wasn't fine. But it's fine now. I
A
paid
bit of
them a
an
lot of
adventure,
money.
I'm sure.
Tears and money. Fix
Mhm.
that one. Um, but anyway, so I was like, I've sing the songs in recital. I'll write a show. Like, why not? So I was sort of writing that show and waiting for the Fringe to start. And I went and I sang in Bizet's The Pearl Fishers up in northern Vermont. And I was in it. It's like a horror movie. I was in a cabin in the woods with 5 other opera singers for 3 weeks. And the horrible people. It was just like when I left there, I'm like, oh my God, like if this is success, this is terrible. Like I've worked my whole life to be this unhappy with terrible, catty, awful, like backstabby, terrible people. Like, no. And then I did the Fringe and I was like, everyone's so nice. So,
Sure.
um, and I didn't stop singing classical music. It just sort of kind of petered out because, like I said, you have to be like rapping on those gates, or everyone forgets you within about 3 seconds.
Mhm.
Um, but the comparison between the communities, I mean, it was like finding a whole family doing the Fringe. And I wasn't even a touring artist then because like touring artists are often quite a close knit community, and
Mhm.
local artists don't always experience that. Like just because you're only there for a couple weeks, not for 4 months. But yeah, it was such a big difference. I was like, how can I? Plus, you make a lot more money on tour if your show does well. I mean, in opera, you're rehearsing for sometimes up to a month to do 3 performances, and you get paid, but you don't get paid for those 3.5 weeks you're sitting in a cabin in the woods, or however long it was. It felt like forever. Yeah, the
Mhm.
Fringe is it was just like finding another world, and a world where like in opera. So I mean, in opera school once, I was doing a master class as you do, and someone's like, "Well, why are you singing this song?" And my answer was like, I think it's a rare song, and I think I interpreted pretty well." And that was not taken well. You are not allowed. You're not allowed. I mean, I don't think it's ego, but you're not allowed to be like, "I do this thing well. This is why I do it." But at the
Mm.
Fringe, everyone is playing to their strengths. You have
Yeah.
jugglers, you have comedians, you have monologists. I mean, no, not everyone, but like especially the people who are touring. These people have found the thing they're good at, and they've made it the center of their lives, and they're making it work for them, and they're lauded for this, and
Mhm.
not like told that what do you know, And it's just like it's such a different world.
Mhm.
Honestly, it was like finding a place where I finally belonged,
Yeah, for sure.
and I never want to leave. But also, it's a lot of dirty laundry. Like you're just
Mm.
running around Canada looking for a washing machine sometimes, and like living with strangers who have way more cats than anyone needs.
Yeah,
But like
for sure.
apart from that, like I'm being so tired and eating like really unhealthy food. But like otherwise, it's amazing and perfect.
Mhm. Yeah, there's a couple different things I want to touch on in there. So
Uh-oh.
like in terms of like money making too, with I think the difference with Fringe is that it puts it into your own hands, right? So like artists are able to market themselves and you have more control over how much money you can make versus when you're in like a more professional touring circuit, you kind of get paid this amount for each show and that's what it is. Whereas with Fringes, you get to advertise yourself and the more that you put into it, the more you can actually get out of it. So there's like that, it
Well, what's
feels like you have more of a say. So.
in North America, absolutely. Like because I mean, I mostly book my own shows here, and I have an agent in the UK. And what's really interesting is like the UK, you could say like the professional touring circuit in the UK is a lot more like Fringes here. I mean, they will guarantee you a certain amount of money, but then you'll get a percentage of the ticket sales. So like, say
Mhm.
you're guaranteed £2,000, but or 60% of the ticket sales, whatever's higher. So, I mean, marketing yourself can help you, and you do feel sort of personally involved in making sure a show goes really well. Um, but yeah, no, in Canada, if you're playing to a theater, and I do that too, you negotiate a fee, and that's the fee. And often they want part of your merch, which is fair, but also like that is that. At a Fringe, you don't have control over the times of your shows. Here in North America, you don't have control over the times. You don't have control over the venue. You can request a venue. Sometimes it is not a venue that works well for your show. You need to be adaptable. That's the
Mhm.
thing. You really need to be adaptable. Um, but you do have control over how you market it. You have control over the show that you've chosen to present. I like having the control. I mean, I really do. I'm good at marketing. I didn't know I would
Mhm.
be. but I am. You build up an audience. Audiences are loyal. They will come
Yeah,
back
they
to
are.
you. Which is lovely because you end up having friends and fans all over the world. Like it's
Mhm.
just the whole world becomes your playground. And for me, that
For
is
sure.
kind of something I always wanted to have. And also the touring artists are from everywhere. So especially now that we're all scattered back to sort of where we were before this whole thing started, it's just really interesting to be like some people are in India, some people are in England. It's some people, a lot of people are in Australia, more than I knew would be. Um, and it's just we're from everywhere. It's
Mhm.
just who knew? And you come together making your art and eating pizza.
Pizza's always good. With the yeah, with touring in Canada versus like the rest of the world, what do you find has those main differences? And yeah, like I'm curious too. So kind of two pieces to this. Like for a lot of artists when they start on the fringe circuit, they may want to like start in Canada and then consider global rather than jumping into global right away. That's kind of where I'm thinking with this question, as well as like um, you also mentioned this piece of like artists or audiences being loyal to artists, which they are. But I think sometimes depending on, and I'm not sure what your experience was like because you were coming from a professional background in opera already, so you might have had some audience built up, but like that idea of not giving up too soon, because sometimes it can take a few seasons to build up your audience a little bit. So I'm wondering your thoughts on that in terms of the difference between Canadian touring and touring globally, as well as like not giving up too soon and like starting to build that audience over time.
Right. Okay. Now, this is not a popular opinion necessarily. People are going to hate me. What I see, so yes, you do have to build up your audience. That all happens. A lot of people though, like if you it's often the show you're doing that's not bringing in the audience. It's not you, it's not your talent. It's often your marketing, not always your marketing, but it's often the show you're doing. And a lot of people I know, they do trauma shows. And there is nothing wrong with doing a good trauma show, but there are a lot of them. If it's going to be like how your father died or how you were in an abusive relationship or how you had cancer, there's a lot of cancer shows. Or how like I mean, and these are all really valid things, and they should be explored and they should be shared. Like there should be a dialogue about all these things, but there are a lot of them. And if and there are a lot of them from people with really strong shows. Like there's an excellent show touring now. Um, Banjo Tomatoes tried to kill me, but Banjo saved my life. It's about cancer, and it is done in a way that draws you in and makes you like really part of the show, and it is excellent. If you are not at that level and you do a show that will make that you feel is a serious issue show, people aren't gonna. It's a sunny day, like
Mm,
you're fighting against like a midway atmosphere outside. Does someone really want to come in and hear about how miserable your life was? Like unless you have banjos, no, they don't. Like it's just they don't. And a lot of people who tour these shows. A lot of people who tour these shows are like, well, people should see them because it's important they do. But like the audience doesn't owe you anything. Like they don't
mm,
owe you need to give them a show that they'll want to see, or you need to present it in a way that will draw them in. Like, for
mhm,
example, this banjo show. Like it is tongue in cheek, there's music, it's really good storytelling. Like that is a show that draws you in and talks about cancer. Like that is part of it, but not all of it. And there are so many trauma shows out there. And I know a lot of people go and do one person shows because it is therapeutic for them. But when you're doing it at a festival, when you're competing with 200 other shows, it doesn't matter about your therapy. It matters about getting audience. Like if you're really just doing it for your therapy, great. But if you're doing it to make money and bring in an audience, you have to bring something else to the table. And I guess for me, when I see people not succeeding at the fringe and being like, well, why the show it's so meaningful and it tells people things they need to hear. And it's like, but so every other show does too. Well,
mhm,
not. I mean, once there was a show where these guys gave themselves enemas on stage. Not that, not the enema show, but like every other show, in a way, is telling people things they need to hear. So, I mean, that's not enough. It's
mhm,
not enough. And you wanting to do it and it meaning a lot to you isn't enough. You need to look at it from a marketing standpoint, unless you just want to get out there on stage. Like, if you don't care, and I know some people who tour and they just don't care, they want to tell their story and do it, and that's fine. Like it's
mhm,
it's open platform in a way. Often the performers are chosen by lottery. It's completely fair. unless you don't get chosen. Then it feels very unfair. Like, to be honest, but I mean, it's fair. It's open access. There's no discrimination in picking. It is, anyone can do it. But no one's telling those audiences they have to come to your show. Like, that is up to you. So I forget what the question even was, but that's sort of my thing, my bugaboo is that, because people do get really bitter. They're like, well, why don't they want to hear this important story? And it's like, because it's a sunny day. Like, they don't want
Yeah,
to hear it.
I think the important piece there too is to recognize, like for artists who are considering being involved in the Fringe, recognize what you want to get out of it and then
Mm-hmm.
build from there as to what you want to do for your art. And because there are a lot, like you say, there's a lot of artists who do just want that, like sharing their story experience, and it's not necessarily about bringing in the cash. But if you're trying to like decide what you want to do and then build
Yeah.
from there first. Yeah.
But also, like, the Canadian Fringes in particular are a great way to get reviews. I
Mm.
mean, if you're like, say, an opera singer, you might be mentioned in a review some point at some point. Like, you'll be lucky if your name makes it, even if you have a pretty major role in the opera. You get reviewed on the Fringe circuit. It is
Mhm.
not since a lot of the smaller magazines is closed. Like, unfortunately, you're not. You used to go to a festival, you get 8 or 9 reviews. I mean, now you'll be getting 1 to 4, 1 to 3. But still, like, it is a way to build up your online presence as an artist. It's a way to get reviews. It's a way to get more confident. I mean, in what you do. I mean, you're carrying an entire show, because a lot of these are one person shows. So you're carrying a show. Something always goes wrong. So, like, you're dealing with whatever that thing is. Like, you have to be on top of everything all the time, and it's such good practice. Like, every young artist, I feel, should have to do that at some point, because like for my knitting show, and it helps you make artistic decisions, because I used to knit and I was like singing about knitting and telling stories, and at one point it was in Winnipeg, and people still come up and are like, do you remember this show? A woman stopped the show and said, you made a mistake, I will fix your knitting. And like, this thing is timed to 55 minutes. Like, I was like, okay, because I didn't know. Like, now I'd be like, okay, like, after, you can do it after, like, it's fine. But the whole show stopped for like, and I was like, I don't know what to do. And she just stood up there like fixing my knitting, and I was like, do I talk now, like in the text? So I mean, you're dealing with unexpected audience members. You're dealing with, I mean, once I was singing in Morocco, and this wasn't a Fringe, and there was a power blackout. There was no tech. I did the show with no music, with no tech. Like, you I know people who have broken limbs and come and like go to the hospital, get their leg or collarbone set, and come back and do their show. Like, you learn to deal with everything. So it's a wonderful learning experience. So yeah, like, money is a reason to do it, but just, it helps you be it helps you as an artist. It
Mhm.
really does. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just like that experience too that you get from the Fringes is a lot different. I'm curious, like, because you've toured to a lot of different countries and you've done like global tours. What have you gained from going to different countries, and like how does that influence how you engage with art in new ways?
You get a lot more flowers in other countries.
Mhm.
Like, to be honest, I'm like, oh my god, flowers, and then you have to leave them behind because you're off to a new country, and you're like, I love you so much. I'll just smell you till your smell is gone. Um, okay, what do you? I guess in a way you learn about the universality of music, and I mean, you could argue that this is the universality of Western music, because I mean, I was singing largely French songs. I get hired a lot for like International Francophone Week or with my Edith Piaf show. So, but no matter where I go in the world, I meet people who know Edith Piaf music or who know American songbook jazz music. And just the fact that, like when I was in Sudan, the biggest university in Northern Africa for women is in Sudan. Like, I didn't, who to know, who to guess, but it is. And so I did these jazz workshops there, and like, these, I guess, young women, and they're not kids, they're younger than I am. These not kids, they knew so much more about jazz than I did, and I was like, this is really awkward. Um, like, let's do vocal technique. I can do that. But just the amount of love and commitment people have for this music all over the world is just amazing. And about, um I mean, people are just, I mean, I'm the only Canadian artist who's ever sung in Chad, in Jamana, Chad, in Africa. And I was like, the Canadian government brought me in to do the concert. It was in the middle of a dust storm outside. Like, it was a whole thing. And it was amazing though, because I did my kids show the next day in someone's living room, this opera show for kids with puppets. And these kids said, there's not children's theater touring around Chad, and there are women performing, but not on a stage in front of all the government officials. Like it's just it also shows the local artists that like this is a thing, you know, and it
Mhm.
just I don't I'm not finding the words for it. It's just it brings people closer together. Like if someone I I know people in Sudan now. I know people in Chad. I know people in Tajikistan. It makes universal events feel a lot closer because I know people in all those places. I mean, and I think if people there's so much divisiveness now if people did know actual people in all of these places, like how can you be racist? You know, if you can't generalize once you know people. And it just also, everyone kind of thought Canada and the States were the same. Speaking of generalizing, so to
Yeah.
be like, yay, Canada, and here's some music from America. But it was just nice to come and represent Canada. I
Mhm.
thought I'm really lucky I've been able to do that. I hope it happens
Yeah.
again. But also, like, it's really fun to wear a ball gown and get flowers overseas. Like, there are really nice flowers in the Czech Republic, say, like, so
Mhm.
nice. Um, I don't know if that's a good answer. It's just like,
No, it
I
is.
don't know. I just love it. I love performing overseas. You never know what's going to happen. You know, once I did a show at a shopping mall in Algeria. It turned out it was the day after the national elections were just called. So there was security everywhere. And I was singing in the food court. I did my opera show for kids
Nice.
in the food court to all these kids who spoke French. Like I did it in French. But like it was just, I don't know. It's just amazing experiences. That's all.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is your experience like with being a multilingual artist too, and being able to offer things in different languages? How does that influence?
Um, I mean, I'm not as bilingual as I wish I were. I mean, like, I'll do a show in French. Absolutely. Like, I went to French immersion. That I mean, I understand. I understand French completely. I completely understand French. Are my verbs always right? No, like they're not. I should really get on that. Like, I speak some Spanish and some Hebrew and like a few words of Czech and like some German, but not really. So, like, I know enough to look like an idiot in a lot of languages. But no, like I can really look like an idiot in French. This is the thing. And like I don't know, I'm kind of good with that. And I feel people seem really grateful if you try overseas, you know? And I feel
Yeah.
that like and again, my experience is mostly from opera because there were a lot of international students and people come and people are like, oh, if their English could be better. And I'm like, oh my God, it's their eighth language. Like their English is so good. And now that I'm on the other side, you know, doing a song introduction in Arabic or doing a song introduction in German, and it's just like, I know I sound dumb, but I'm trying, and people are really nice about it. Um, it opens things up. I just, it opens things up. I feel very limited when I'm in a place where the only common language we have is English. Like, I don't mean here. I mean, like, when I'm traveling and your third language is English and my first language is English, and it's like, why should we be talking English? We should be talking Urdu, but we're not because I don't. Um, yeah, I don't know. It makes me very jealous of people who have learned more languages and want to learn
Mhm.
more, basically.
Yeah, yeah, and I think the key with that is like keeping the communication central versus like trying to get it right or like correct. And I think that's what we often forget when we're communicating with people who speak other languages and we're trying to speak other languages. It's like it's about the connection and being able to get across what you are trying or something similar enough to what you're trying to get across rather than getting it like perfect.
But there's also yeah, absolutely, like absolutely what you said. But there's also a thing, and I found this a lot when traveling. You just keep on trying different languages till you figure out how to say what you have to say. And
Yeah.
I love that because like romance languages are all more or less the same, you know. So if you can't talk in Italian, you're like, well, I'll just stick in this Spanish word, and you might get it, you know. And so like it's and I don't speak Portuguese at all, but I can sort of understand it kind of a little and kind of make myself understood as someone who clearly doesn't know Portuguese. And it's just like, it is so much fun trying to build a sentence to get that thing you want to get. Unless you're at an airport and you can't find your airplane and like your luggage is lost and it's like an emergency, then it is less fun.
Yeah.
That's happened. Then
So
you're
you,
just like,
you go into
oh,
panic mode.
yeah. And then you're like, all I know is English now. But it's it's the whole thing's a game. It just makes the world feel more like just a game. That
Mhm.
kind of does.
Yeah. It's awesome. So when you've been touring the world, like what has been your biggest takeaway from a country that you've been to, or a specific show even that you did that just went really well, or maybe not so well that you took away from that experience of it?
Well, let me think. It's just been so long since I've thought of anything but this bedroom. I'm like, oh yeah, all these places that exist. Um, well, I did my Edith. Okay, I was supposed to do my Edith Piaf show in Cambodia. Um, I was supposed to. The biggest hotel there is owned by a Canadian, so like he hosted his hotel for the concert. I was supposed to do it there. I showed up. I was going to use a live pianist, and the live pianist didn't know any of the songs. So instead of doing that, we just went through his songbook, picked songs that he knew, and I just did the show with like whatever song that I kind of knew and he could play. And it was fun. Like the show went great. The Prince of Cambodia came and we went out to a jazz club after, and then I got to sing some of the Piaf songs. Like the jazz band knew them. So yeah, he was, when the prince asked the jazz band to let someone come on stage, they're not going to say no. But I guess what you just have to be flexible.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but also someone might call your bluff. And I mean, I was doing my Edith Piaf show in Brunei Dar Salam, which is um near Malaysia. It's just it's the other half of the Malaysian island, and I did it there. And um, I had to go sing before there's a committee that makes sure like that your songs are modest enough because they're under Sharia law there, and I didn't know that when I went, but they are. So I had, and all these songs are about prostitutes and things. So I was like, I hope you don't know French. So I was singing all these Piaf songs to this like government committee the day after I got there, and they approved it, but they also pulled out a picture of me holding an accordion and asked where my accordion was. And that had been a prop for the photo. So I lied and said I love to play accordion. I just don't happen to have one. And they showed up at the concert with an accordion for me right
That's
before I went
great.
on stage. Like the head of the military orchestra got a friend of his in Russia to send him an accordion for me. And I was like, what do I do? So I mean, like, so someone might call your bluff if you lie, and it's really hard to get. So I mean, I was like, ah. So I played a couple folk songs. I worked out like a couple chords, and it was hugely embarrassing. I don't know that anyone else was embarrassed. But I don't know. Don't lie to a government censorship committee about your accordion skills. I guess that is my takeaway for everybody.
That's an awesome story. You had mentioned before too about like the differences in copyright in Canada versus the States. How do you navigate that when you're going to so many different countries and finding music that you can kind of play across the board?
Well, there is really very little music you can play across the board.
Mhm.
I don't know how honest I should be in my answer. Um, some people's estates are more litigious than others.
Mm,
Like Irving Berlin. There was a whole Irving Berlin Foundation. There's a Kurt Weill Foundation. There's a Rogerson Hammerstein Foundation. There is I know a Coward Foundation, but that stuff's going to be out of copyright in Canada in 2023, which is the year I'm touring my show. Um, so Canada is 50 years after they die. So it's easy. Britain is 70 years after they die. America is 90 years after the song was written. For the most part, there are exceptions, but that is the blanket. In the UK, you can apply for this sort of thing where you pay 2.5% of your ticket sales, and then you can use anything. You just have to submit a
mhm,
thing and list the song. So I mean, it's easy there. A lot of concert venues or jazz venues here have blanket licensing agreements. So you hopefully get a venue that has that, or you write to the foundation, or you can get permission, or you don't. Like, I mean, when I'm going to Sudan, I'm just doing the songs. None of these people are living anymore.
mhm,
Most of them don't have living children. I don't know. Most of them, the copyrights were from this tiny obsolete place that has been maybe bought up by Boozy and Hawks or something, maybe, but I can't, it's impossible to find out
yeah.
because no one, a lot of what I do are these lost songs that no one cares about. Um, so I just do a lot of shows with lost songs no one cares about. Like I try to stick as much as I can, with exceptions like Noel Coward and things, to that
Mhm.
because and you just have to be ready to get in trouble, maybe. But
Yeah.
like, I mean, I would never do like Celine Dion or something without. Well, I would never. I would never do Celine Dion without paying for the rights, because like
Yeah.
this is a living artist and it's not right. But like when
Hmm.
someone's been dead 100 years, like I don't know.
Yeah. And trying
I'm
to
not
trace it.
encouraging. I don't know. Like anyway, um, yeah, I'm gonna go to jail now. Oh well.
So what is your, in terms of like, when you first transitioned from the world of opera to Fringe, like, did you plan out like in advance how that shift was going to happen, or did you just kind of like jump in and try it?
Well, I won the CAF lottery in 2012, and if you don't know what that is, but you know what that is. It's a touring lottery where basically instead of entering each fringe separately, you win and you get to enter them all without you get to skip the line basically. So I was like, oh, should I go to an opera festival that summer? Like, should I do this? Should I audition for this? And then I got the CAF lottery, and I was like, I'm just gonna tour. And it went really well. And after that, there was kind of no going back.
Mm-hmm.
Like I do a lot of concert work overseas in between tours, and I do a lot of like theater tours overseas in between tours, but I keep coming back to the Fringe because I love it. And you can do anything. And if it
Yeah.
doesn't work, that's on you. But there
Hmm.
are no gatekeepers about your content. I mean, audience reaction is basically your only gatekeepers, and I guess the law. Like you don't want to have sex with a bunny on stage. Plus, you'd have to buy a bunny, so that would be. Plus, don't do that. Don't have sex with bunnies. but like, like I said, the show where these two guys gave themselves an enema. Nobody wants to see that, but they
Hmm.
could do it. It's the Fringe. Like if they felt the need to do that, yeah, okay, Um, but yeah, I guess with
Yeah.
opera, like what really made me stop doing it is like I'm still kind of doing it, but the auditions are such a pain. And for
Mm.
opera, you have to pay to audition usually because you're paying a pianist fee. So it's like it's this whole process, and you have to apply for auditions. And I have friends who have sung at the Met, and the next week they're back doing the same auditions that we've all done. Like
Hmm.
there's very little few people who get to the point where they no longer have to audition. And people started buying my shows after seeing them at the Fringe. So they were
Nice.
calling me, and I was like, you know what? This is like sweet, sweet power. Like
Hmm.
I don't want to audition. I don't want to put on a dress if I don't have to. If I'm not being paid, like, no. I don't want to have to pretend to like this music that I don't necessarily. I mean, and I love some opera. It's just the stuff I like is not necessarily the stuff that they want to hear at auditions. That's
Yeah.
a terrible answer. My point is, it's easier when someone wants to buy your show than when you're convincing them, because when you're a singer, there's always someone better. Like there's someone
Mm.
prettier, there's someone younger, there's someone better. There's not a lot of people doing a Noel Coward show. There's a few, but if that's what you want, they're gonna buy mine. So
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. What advice would you give to someone who's considering joining Fringe for the first time and getting into that space?
um I guess from what I said, or like first, just do it. Just do it. Don't start with a big one. I wouldn't suggest to start with Winnipeg or Edmonton, just because you will get reviewed. The review will be online forever. And definitely don't start with Edinburgh, because that's a whole other story. Like that is the biggest arts market in Europe. I get a lot of jobs out of that, but also people go there and lose thousands of dollars. So like don't do a high risk fringe. Do a smaller one where you can get comfortable on stage, you can get comfortable
Hmm.
with how it goes, you can get comfortable with your show. So don't start huge, but also like just do it. I mean, just do it. People will come. Might not sell out, but you will get an audience. You will be doing your art in front of an audience. And
Hmm.
like, isn't that kind of what we all just want in the end? We want to say what we have to say to an audience and have people pay to listen to us. Like that's
Hmm.
all we want in life. So I would say just do it, but also be very aware of what sells and what doesn't. If that's something, if you're doing this to make a profit, be smart about it.
Hmm.
That's all. And talk to other fringe artists. Like we're nice. Like we're so nice. There are groups online of artists that we have this amazing community. Like don't be afraid to ask questions, but also don't be afraid to listen, because like a lot of artists, the first year, everything is like, me, come to my show, I'm the best. And you're just like, you're so young and exhausting. you know, I mean, but it's give and take. And so, just also listen to the other artists and see what works with them. And I mean, I have 5 university degrees, and my biggest education has been touring the Fringe and seeing how other people present their art and what works and what doesn't. Like
Hmm.
that is the most invaluable thing anyone can do. So, yeah, that is what I think.
That's awesome. So for yourself, who has been your most like inspirational figures that got you into art? I know you got in very young, especially with like your opera singing, but um, if you could point to someone who kind of inspired you to take that leap into doing art full time, who would that person be?
I mean, my grandfather was a big band singer. So I mean, he played his bass and he sang, and I always figured I'd be a singer. I mean, that was never in any doubt. I always knew I was going to be a singer. And my mom's very musical, and she's a musician also. She plays the clarinet and piano, and at that point there wasn't a person. It was the thing I had to do. It was my fate. That's how it always felt. Like there was never going to be any choice about it. But when it came to just not taking opera really, because you take it you're deadly serious about opera. Like it is, there is no other music but opera. But I had this one teacher, Mary Lou Follis, and her big album is called Prima Donna on a Moose, and it's these funny Canadian popular songs from the late 1800s. And I'm like,
Nice.
forgotten music, funny. Just like she hit all these things, and I'm like, oh my god, I want to do what you do.
Mhm.
So I realized the other day I kind of do what she does. So I mean, Mary Lou Follis absolutely inspired me. She got me out of Alberta. She took me on as her student in Ontario, got me out of here. um but as far as the fringe, just like looking at artists who've been doing it longer than I have, like Shelby Bond or Jem Rolls, or just these epic artists who have built these international careers based on the fringe.
Mhm.
I guess it's weird because like all these people had been fringe veterans when I started, and now everyone's like, you're a fringe veteran. I'm like, oh my God, it's been 11 years. You're right. Um, but yeah, no, these people who just felt like fixtures of the fringe, TJ Daw, Rob G, like all of these people, and I've learned so much from them.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah. Does that feel like a weight of responsibility ever being like a fringe veteran for like the next upcoming generation? Or is it something that uh, is it more just like that shock that it's been that long?
Partially shocked because partially shocked because I'm like, I got my last opera degree. I graduated in 2008. Like it honestly feels like it just happened. And I'm like, I guess a lot of things have happened since then. I mean, it's been busy.
Mhm.
Um, a lot of it, like a lot of us fringe veterans spend a lot of time being like, in my day, like in my day, you got a 5-star review and you'd sell it your whole run. And like there's a lot of in my day happening. Um, I feel like a curmudgeonly old man yelling at people to get off my lawn, like sometimes, seriously. But also I'm happy to help people. Like I do help a lot of people. I feel like I read their program copy and I help them with press releases, and I try to be as helpful as I can to other people.
Mhm.
And it's sometimes new artists and sometimes artists who are still touring. And I still feel the more we help each other, the stronger we all are. Like audiences are not just going to go to your show. If they like your show and you say, well, also go see their show, they'll go to both of them.
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
so, but as to the new artists, I try. Um, like I try. A lot of people are here for a season and gone. Some people stick with it. Um, I, luckily for me, there haven't been a lot of artists who do what I do. So like I've been
Mhm.
able to help them without being like, which is that's not the most generous sentiment. But I don't know. I try to feel like I'm helpful. I try to help people. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, what has been your favorite fringe experience at any fringe that you've ever been to? What's like that one standout
Um,
moment of like, this was awesome?
Okay. Well, the best stand-up moment, I think, well, there's going to be so many, but the one that comes to mind, and we were just talking about it the other day, a bunch of us, in 2012, um, I had a BY. So I won the calf lottery, but I was actually doing, this is before they stopped you from doing 2 shows. So I was doing a second show. You're usually only allowed to do your show, but we were like, we like money. Do 2 shows. So I had my show, and then I was doing a 2-person show. And we got a BYOV and we were doing it. And the person running the BYOV neglected to apply for a city occupancy permit.
Oh no.
So all the officials came down, luckily for me, right after my show. So like it was fine. I didn't lose even one show. Other people did. But they came right after my show and they shut this venue down. And the Fringe was so nice. They actually found us another venue within a day
Wow,
and
that's
like
awesome.
released a press release about it. And everyone's like, you guys are like plucky survivors of this terrible thing. And I'm like, I guess so. Like, we weren't inconvenienced at all. The new venue was a lot bigger and nicer. But,
Mhm.
people kind of felt so bad for us. We all sold out our runs. Like, it was
Nice.
amazing. And it was venue 20. So we're always like that year with venue 20. And it was just, and we all ended up running each other's tech. So that's how I learned to use a light and a soundboard. Because then you learn this stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah, I learned to run tech. I had an artist running my tech. You definitely cross promote when you're sharing. When your tech is standing right there, you do have to tell people to go to his show. So it was just for me that the sense of community was never stronger than the year of venue 20.
Mhm.
That was, I guess it was bad for the guy running the venue, but it was certainly great for us.
That's
So
awesome. That sounds like it was a really good year.
oh my God, it was the best year when it came to touring. Yes.
Mhm.
And then they started tightening up on the rules about 2 shows, which maybe they did before then. I just didn't read them. Um, I don't know. It was just, yeah, touring. But
Mhm.
every year has something. I mean, every year. Um, like the year I did the Deanna Durbin show, that's 2019. I was touring into Orlando and I ended up getting an offer to go to a nudist colony, like a nudist community and sing there. So I did
Nice.
naked. I was like, cool, money. So I went and I performed there and then they all came to my show at the Orlando Fringe.
That's
Um,
awesome.
Clothed, and this year I'm doing the Orlando Fringe and I'm considering having a clothing optional in the audience show. So like, why shouldn't they all come? So it's
Nice.
just like those kind of experiences. Like I would never, the year before, I would never have pictured me at a naked lounge singing Edith Piaf songs with a naked pianist. And I did it. Like, so yeah,
Yeah.
who
I think
knows?
I think that's one of the most exciting things about fringes is you don't know where you'll end up or what will happen during the experience. Like it's always something different and new and exciting.
Yeah, and like honestly, when a summer tour starts, you never know exactly what'll have happened to you at the end of the summer. Which the end of the summer is usually like end of September. It's usually like mid-May to end of September. It's quite a long summer. But yeah, you know that amazing and unforgettable things will and maybe some regrettable things will have happened in those months. So yeah,
Awesome.
I can't wait for it to start up again. Like wait, so soon.
Yeah. What was the main difference for you doing like the digital version this year compared to like missing that touring aspect? And I know like a lot of fringes offered different connection points online with other artists, but what did you feel like was the most different in the community difference between digital and in person?
Well, for me, I mean, the digital show that you presented at your Fringe, that was the first time I had ever run this show ever. And like usually I'm past that stage by the time I'm presenting it. But by the time I got all the music recorded, by the time I got everything together, and then it was taped through Ottawa Fringe. It was the day before taping, and there was no space to run it that was big enough. I didn't have all the props in one place. I didn't have all the costumes because I had ordered a lot of this on eBay and had it sent to the States. And luckily, my sister's husband ended up going down there to see his parents when the border were closed. So he brought, just like by the time I had it all together, I had never run the show. And the first time I ran it was the day we taped it. So it's a better show now. I've done it
Yeah.
at 2 live festivals and like, no, doing it live, getting the feedback. Um, it's a better show now, but just, um, I guess not having that room for growth with the show, not getting to see
Mhm.
what jokes land and what doesn't, and having the pauses for the audience. I miss the audience.
Yeah.
We love applause, guys. It's
Mhm.
better than food. It's like, you might not have sex on tour, but you are going to get clapped at. So it's just like, we need that. We need that to live, and not
Mhm.
having it is sad. So I guess you do miss the attention because we are all kind of like, we do like attention.
Mhm. For sure.
Like we do. Why else would we be doing this? Like especially with COVID, there was a lot of, and I mean, I know I did a lot of literary editing, I did a lot of other things, but everyone's like, okay, what's your side gig gonna be? And it's like, I devoted my life to be a performer for the most part.
Mhm.
And it's like, why should I find a side gig? Like, I'm as trained in this as you are as an accountant. It's not my fault there's a pandemic, man. Like, it's not fair. And I know a lot of things are not fair in life, but it's also people were so quick to be like, oh, good, you found a side gig. And it's like, I guess it's good, but also it's crushing my soul.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad I'm doing it because it is helping people write their books and it's money and I need to live, but also like I should be performing. That's who I am. Like
Mm-hmm.
that I've given up a lot in life. I mean, like I said, childhood bedroom. I'll never be able to afford a house. Um, but I have a noble goal, which is performing. And if I
Mm-hmm.
can't do it, you kind of have nothing.
Yeah.
That's
It's,
kind of how it felt. I guess I had free food because I'm with my mom, but like nothing else.
yeah, that it really shows though the importance of like doing what you love in life, because even though like performing is a very unique lifestyle to choose, when it's not a pandemic, like you get
Hmm.
to be in that space and be happy 24/7, which is amazing. And the pandemic will pass. It's just like
Yeah.
the waiting game.
Well, it is now. And I mean, I was lucky enough. I did do Edmonton Fringe and Vancouver Fringe live. And I don't know if those were good ideas. I mean, I didn't get COVID, so we're good. But like, was it good idea? Maybe not. But I did it. That was the only risk I took basically this entire pandemic. So I'm kind of okay with that. But yeah, I think for a lot of us, everything was lined up. Like we had amazing tours, we had all these amazing things that fell apart. And what people don't realize is like, apart from the Fringe, theaters book like 2 years in advance. So I'm getting gigs, but I'm getting gigs for 2023.
Hmm.
Like my next live performance at this point is in March. Um, that's a long time from now. So
Yeah.
yes, things are opening up, but also just because of the way the booking system works in theaters, things don't just open up. Like it is a giant struggle for us still.
Hmm.
I really appreciate the fact there was that CERB and
Yeah.
then the
It's
CRB
helpful.
afterwards, because like I know not everyone agreed with that, but like it saved us. It gave us the space
Hmm.
to be able to lie in bed and be sad and then like write new shows and get this stuff ready instead of like, oh my God, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I
yeah.
think you touch on an important point there too, because people don't understand like the response that I've heard a lot of people saying is like, oh, well, you can't do what you're usually doing, so just do something else. And it's like, but the mental, like, it's a grieving process when you can't do what you're designed to do, and you can't just all of a sudden flip to something else. Like there's a transition that needs to happen. Um, and yeah, people just don't understand that um, you can't just flip into something new right away. Like it's not going to happen that way.
But
So,
even more than that, like when you're a performer, we don't get paid for a lot of what we do.
mhm,
Like we don't. I don't get paid to write my show. I don't get paid to rehearse it or get the props or write the program copy or apply for the fest. Like there is hours of work every week, often every day, that like you don't get paid for. And yeah, I get paid a lot of money when I am on the stage performing, but it has to make up for all those other days.
yeah,
And just because those performances were all canceled doesn't mean that the prep work it still needs to be done.
yeah.
That's the thing. You still need to be able to put that time in, or you won't have a show ready for when things start up again. You still need to practice singing in theory. Um, yeah, I've been kind of lazy about that one, but like you still need to do all that stuff. And like there is not to be all like, oh, I'm creative, but you do need a certain amount of mental space to create new content in the world. And like I know an amazingly talented clarinet player, and he got it like a job through the pandemic. He has a full-time job now, and it's a good job, and he is not performing. He's put his music aside because he can't do them both. And I
Mm.
think he should go do his music. But but like I get it, he needs a new roof on his house. But also like I hope he doesn't listen. Sorry for listening to this. But I'm sure your roof's gonna be beautiful.
Yeah, it is that like it's really hard on everyone right now in terms of like so many people are leaving the arts because of that and like making that choice. And I'm hoping after a few years people will like the opposite will happen and everybody jumps back in again. But yeah, it's difficult with the pandemic right now.
I mean, one advantage, and this is totally self-serving, is that there are some people who just, and this is totally fine if you do this, but they just sort of dabble in it and they come and do the Fringe just for fun. Then they go back to their like banking job where they make $1 million. Maybe they'll, and that makes the lottery harder to win for
Mm-hmm.
us. So like maybe that'll be easier to get into festivals for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
That would be nice. However, you know, um, that's just totally self-serving.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm shamelessly so. Like I'm good with that. But yeah, there are a lot of people who are going to be going away from it because they can't afford to do it anymore, because there is a
Mm-hmm.
cost. You have to,
Yeah.
festivals are expensive, and you're basically banking on the fact you'll make that back, but like you still need to have that initial outlay of money to get there
Mm-hmm.
and to do it. So it definitely is going to disadvantage a lot of people luckily a lot of the festivals are taking that into consideration
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. So I mean, the fact that that's a focus, that is important, and I'm and serving underserved communities and all that. I love that there's that focus towards that.
Mhm.
But also I'm also happy if there's fewer people in the lottery.
Yeah, makes
So
sense.
that, yeah.
For sure. I am just noticing the time. So is there any like last thoughts that you wanted to share or anything that you wanted to touch on before we finish off today?
Um, I guess just a lot of people like there's no magical formula for a successful show. I mean, sometimes someone will burst onto the scene and their show will be amazing and a success, and you're like, oh my God, you're amazing. You're a force of nature. This is fantastic. But for a lot of us, like the successful shows, you just need an idea that sells. And you need an
Mhm.
idea. And for me, you want the audience happier when they leave than when they come in. Like you want to give them something nice. And um, so if you're new at doing this and thinking like, what can I do? What can I do that will be at least relatively successful and that I'll enjoy doing? Like, bring the audience along on a fun journey. Like, we
Mhm.
need fun. Like, after this
Yeah.
year, what's going to sell is not going to be your COVID story. Like, it's just
Mhm.
not. And there will be a lot. Like, I'm already hearing people who are going to the Edinburgh Fringe talking about, like, I'm going to do a COVID show. And I'm like, no, because we've lived it. Like,
Yeah.
we're good. Like do a show, but do a juggling show. Do a show about that time like you lost your passport and I don't know, had to breed gerbils in Mongolia to get enough money to get out. Like something.
Mhm.
Just do a show that'll make us all feel better about life.
Yes.
That would be my and do a show. Just do it. You know, just don't have big expectations, but do a show. Why not? Right? And go to Fringe North.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like I think we all just need like to smile and laugh and be able to forget about everything that's gone on for a few hours.
Yeah, and don't be offended. That's the thing. When new people often come to festivals, they get so offended at things. But like the Fringe was originally like the reason it exists was to push limits.
Mhm.
And a lot of people are afraid to push limits now. But like go do your enema show. Like don't do your enema show. But like if you feel you need to, just do it. Push those limits because like this is the format. Like this is the place where limits can be pushed and people shouldn't be afraid to do that.
Mhm.
Um so go do your enema, but don't do your like that's been done.
Well, thank you so much, Melanie, for your time today and for coming on and being willing to chat about all these different areas of your life. And it's really exciting to like hear and get to know you better. And,
Thank you so much for having me.
yeah, and thank you to our audience for watching. Miigwech, merci, and gracias, and we will see you all again soon. Bye.
Bye.